Hello there, friends, and welcome back to Sesh Cast. My name is GLDLX. This is Sesh Cast, a cannabis podcast for cannabis sessions. And today I can't guarantee you that my cat won't be in this episode, because I have not kicked him out of the room that I am recording in, and I don't really feel like it tonight. He's made my little buddy this week, so if you hear meowing or cooing or little bell sounds of any sort, it is my cat, because I cannot guarantee that he will not be a part of this episode. But anyway, my name is GLDLX, and this is Sesh Cast. It's this little thing that I do that I get high and I talk about stuff. So thank you for stopping by to listen to me get high and talk about stuff. I need to move my stopwatch out from directly in front of my face, or I will obsess about it all episode long. So this is a podcast that I do where I just kind of get stoned and talk and ramble. And yeah, that's how an intro goes. Follow me on Instagram if you want. I am on Instagram at SeshCast, all one word. That is where I post pictures of all of the glass that I used to smoke out of from episode to episode. Hi, buddy. Hey, what are you doing up here? You just did not wait. We're like less than a minute in. Here you are. Yep, right on time. Sorry, I do get a little bit of a baby voice when I talk to my cat, which is funny because he's completely deaf and he can't hear me. This is my cat Oliver. You cannot see him, but you will probably hear him. He is completely deaf and mostly blind. He can see light and like large shapes. So if you walk in front of him, he can see you, but if you wave at him, he doesn't really see much. We rescued him from a vet that was going to have to put him down because his owner passed away. He's 11 years old, too. He's an old guy. But his owner was going to have to put him down because his owner had passed away, and the daughter of the owner inherited him, and she had other animals, and he doesn't like being around other animals, so they brought him to the vet, and we're like, sorry, you're going to have to put him down. We don't know what to do with him, and the vet was looking for somebody to take him, and so we did, and we love him very much, don't we? Don't we? You love me. I love you. There's your little backstory on me and my life with my cat on my lap. He's very needy, and he meows a lot. Not needy in the sense of he can't do anything for himself, because he gets along just fine on his own. Needy is in for like the cuddles and the snugs. He is a little attention cat. Is that not right? All right. Anyway, back to trying to focus on smoking weed and podcasting while my cat's on my lap. So I don't remember where I left off. Oh, Instagram, probably. I'm on Instagram at SeshCast is my handle. It's where I post pictures of all the glass I use from episode to episode. And today I'm actually using a brand new pipe that I'm super, 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 super excited about. And I'll probably DM this guy tomorrow too, just to say thanks again. But this is a little Galaxy Sherlock piece. And when I say little, I mean little. It is probably, I would say maybe 2.5 inches long from like mouthpiece to very end of the bowl. Maybe 3 inches. It's quite tiny. And then probably like 1.5 inches tall. It's super, super awesome. This great little like galaxy coloration in the neck and into the bowl itself. And then it's got these 3 little planets on the side of it, which could possibly be like Jupiter, Mercury, and Mars. And it's gorgeous. And unfortunately, it's not mine. I bought it as a present for somebody else, but they are on vacation this week, so I get to use it. It's great. It's super cute. It's super tiny. It hits really well. Does have a very interesting downturned mouthpiece on it. When I DM'd this guy on Instagram to ask him about buying it, that was the one thing that was in the post about it, was that the mouthpiece didn't come out quite the way he had wanted it to, but it's still pretty functional. And I will say, I mean, it's like, it does take a minute to get around the interesting mouthpiece shape, because it is very different. It's like very flat, and it kind of comes down. The only way that I can describe this is going to be such a like deep cut thing, so I'm sorry if this flies over your head, but I had a Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Colors weren't backlit. They needed an external LED light that you plugged into your connector port to light your screen if you were playing in the dark, i.e., on planes, in cars, yada yada yada. So I had one that was this like cool slime plant thing that sort of wrapped over the top of your Game Boy. Um, it's like, I wish I knew what it was called or something. The mouthpiece of this pipe looks exactly like the shape of the little LED eye looking down at you. If I can remember, I might try and find a picture of it and post it on Instagram. It's definitely not where I am. If I have it still, it's definitely at my parents' house in a box somewhere. So I don't have one. I don't know. I might hunt the internet down for a picture of that and see if I can find it. But anyway, it's this great little piece. The mouthpiece shape is interesting but comfortable as soon as you get used to it. It's beautiful. I just love this little thing. Very, very, very cool looking. Not something that I would personally call a daily driver. It's a little small for me, but something that I would say is an incredibly awesome conversation piece, and a piece that I'm very, very happy is in our collection, even if it's not technically mine. Did I say this is from Very Good Glass on Instagram, at Very Good Glass? I don't know that I said that earlier, and I'm sorry if I didn't, but at Very Good Glass, the handle of that artist, follow him. His stuff is really cool. He's got some really, really cool colors, and some cool stuff. He's just trying a lot of things right now. So check him out on the Instagram. He'll be tagged in the post as well. Follow me on Instagram at Sesh Cast, if I didn't say that enough. I'm smoking still on Jack Herrera and Gorilla Glue 4 because I'm about to go on vacation, and I don't like buying right before I go on vacation. It feels weird to me. So I'm about out, but I'm going to smoke this, and then we'll get into the episode. Cheers. The one thing I will say, I think, about the shape of this little spoon, Sherlock thing, is that just because of the way that the mouthpiece, excuse me, oh boy, is angled, and the way that you kind of have to hold the pipe, it doesn't end up being quite as much of a mustache burner as a lot of little 2.5-inch spoons are, which is cool. I like that a lot, because I have a large mustache and I don't like to burn it. So, today's episode is one that it kind of took me a while to come up with a topic for. I was just struggling to get motivated to talk about something, and I had a couple of different ideas, but there was one that jumped out with me because it was a conversation I had with one of my best friends this week, where I mentioned the Starfish story. And I don't know if that's like a me thing or an everybody thing. I think it's like a national program. I don't know, but I wanted to talk about this, and just kind of talk about some of the other things that are going on in the world right now, and how I think that the Starfish story relates to some of those things. So, if you don't want to hear somebody talk about Starbucks and plastic straws, you might want to jump episodes. But if you do, stick with me, because that's where we're going. But first, let's get to the Starfish part of things. So, backstory. Let me give you backstory to then tell you the backstory. When I was in 7th grade, 7th and 8th grade, we had this program called the Starfish program. Now, I think that this was, at one point, a national thing, or at least a pretty, regional thing. I don't think this was just my high school that did this. My middle school, elementary school, intermediate high school, junior high school, whatever it's called where you are when people are in 7th and 8th grade, because that's not standardized, which is weird. Seems like such an easy thing to standardize, but then, whatever. When I was in junior high, we had this thing called the Starfish program, which was basically, 8th graders who had committed to being cool and friendly and helpful around the community, and specifically to the 7th graders, because you're coming out of where I went to school, being in a classroom with the kids in your elementary school. So basically, with the same 25 to 100 kids for 7 years, to suddenly being in a school of like 14, 1500 ish. Maybe a little bit less than that, but right around the like 13 to 1500 mark. And switching classes and traversing buildings and the whole nine. So the Starfish program was designed as like an anti-bullying campaign, as a community commitment campaign, as just a way to generally improve the atmosphere of the junior high school. And the whole thing sort of came down to this concept of like, just do good, help people, be kind. And it was something that really vibed with me. And of all of the, programs and things that I've seen in my life and been involved in through my time in college and in high school and post-college and all of this stuff that has these like big central ideas or pivotal pillars to them, the one that's really stuck with me the most is the Starfish program and the concept of the Starfish story, which I will tell you here in a minute. So there's a little bit of your backstory there, if that didn't register with you, or if that wasn't something that you were familiar with. I'm curious if this is still going on, because I don't know. I had a not so great high school experience. This is all junior high. So like in where I went, 7th and 8th grade was in the junior high, 9th and 10th was in the intermediate high, and 11th and 12th was in the senior high. And that's not the same anymore. That's all changed up. But I like 7th and 8th grade was sort of its own little world. It was middle school, quote unquote. So my high school experience was incredibly negative, and that has caused me to never really go back or look back or check in on my old school, because I don't care. But I did really enjoy my time at the junior high to some extent, and I don't know what things are like over there now. So I don't know if they're still doing the Starfish program. I don't know if any schools are still doing the Starfish program. Maybe this is just a relic long lost on those of us who were in middle school in the mid to late 2000s. Who knows? So, there's your backstory on where I got the information that I'm about to share with you now. Information, like it's some secret scroll passed from generation to generation. The little life lesson that I'm about to share with you. But I'm going to take another quick hit, and we'll jump back in. Cheers. All right, so here's the money shot, the Starfish story, right? This is the big key factor of this whole program. It's this story about this old man. This old man walks the beach regularly. It's by his house. It's just a thing that he enjoys doing. And every day, he sees this kid going up and down the beach, picking up starfish and throwing them back in the water. See, that's the thing about starfish. They don't always have a ton of control when the tide rolls in. And if a starfish gets pushed up onto the beach and it's not in a super wet sandy area, it's not very downslope, there's not a lot of runoff, it could just be really hard for them to get back to the water. And a starfish, if it's out of the water for too long, it'll dry up and it'll die. And so there's this old man who walks the beach, and every day he sees this kid. The kid just walks along and picks up a starfish and tosses it back into the ocean and then keeps on walking. And it's very curious to this man, because this guy's lived on this beach for 40 years. And the beach goes for miles and miles and miles in each direction. And he's walked this beach so many times, and every day it's covered in starfish. It's just a very tropical part of the world, and there's a lot of current and a lot of tide that rips in. And so almost every day you can go out and pick up a starfish, and a lot of them are taken home as souvenirs for people on vacation, and a lot of them just become part of the sand as you're walking about. And those of them that are close enough to where the tide rolls in get sucked back into the ocean, but most of them just sort of litter the beach. Um, and so it's very curious for this man to see this young kid just walking around the beach and throwing starfish back in the water. And so after he watches him do this for a couple of days, the old man goes up to the little kid and stops him, and he says, "Why are you wasting your time throwing these starfish back into the water? This beach goes for miles in either direction, and there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of starfish that wash up on this beach every single day. What are you, one boy, doing? And why are you wasting your time? Because you can never actually save all of the starfish." And the kid is a little surprised by the man's reaction, but he bends down and he picks up a starfish and he says, "Because I may not be able to make a difference to all of these starfish, but I can make a difference to this starfish. And to this starfish, that matters, and that means the world." And he throws the starfish back into the ocean and he keeps walking. And that's the end of the starfish story. It's this simple story and this simple idea of maybe you can't change the whole world or solve the whole problem or fix everything. But if you can do one good thing for one person, that could change their whole life. The starfish story, I think, can also be adapted into a story that I hear much more often. The story of the weird kid at school who doesn't have a lot of friends and never really hangs out with anybody. And then one day, some other kid asks him if he wants to sit with him for lunch. And then 4 or 5 years later, the weird kid talks at graduation or speaks to the other kid on the bus or talks to a parent and says, "I was going to kill myself that day, but that one kid who asked me to have lunch with him saved my life." It's these little things, these tiny things that you do for one person, or to solve one part of a problem, or to help with one thing in one little way, that can just have such a drastic impact on the small scale. And that is something that I have used to govern my life for my 25 years of what good can I do for people? What is the good thing? What is the one way that I can help somebody? Even if it's small, or even if it's only one person, or even if it's only part of the problem, how can I just do good and improve on a situation? Just like the kid picking up starfish and throwing them back into the water, you'll never solve all of the world's problems. You'll never fix everything. But if you do your part, if you help a little bit, you're going to change the lives of some individuals, and you're going to start to solve a problem. You're going to start to create change. You're going to do so many things just by doing a little bit. It's like the big snowballs that roll down the side of a hill. Nothing starts as a boulder. It's got to start small. Everything starts small. And I think that's really important. And I feel like that's something that our society is shying away from. That the concept, like we as a culture have decided that if it's not the whole solution, then it's not enough of a solution. If it can't fix the whole problem, then it's not a solution at all. And that's a problem that I have. That's something that I dislike, and something that I want to urge the world to change, because I don't agree at all. And so part of the reason that this is in my head a little bit right now is because of the Starbucks ban on plastic straws, which I will talk about here in a minute, but I'm going to take another hit of this bowl. But it's interesting because I had this conversation with one of my best friends, and we were just on very different sides of this debate for very different reasons, and I want to try and cover all of those sides. because it is interesting. You know, there are a lot of sides to this world, and this core belief that I had of incremental good and incremental improvement was like the defining difference between our thoughts, but something that we came to an agreement on, and I think that's important too. So I'm going to get to all of that after I take another hit, but I think that I forgot to mention earlier that I hope that you're smoking something, or if you're not smoking something, then you're doing something else that you enjoy, drinking a hot cup of coffee or eating a hot bowl of ramen or whatever it may be. I don't know, but you know, thanks for hanging out and smoking along with me, and I hope that you are enjoying whatever it is you are doing, and I hope that things are good for you. Cheers. I don't know if this is a bowl thing or a weed thing, but this bowl has been like rolling like Limp Bizkit. Like every time I light it, it just cooks and cherries for an eternity, to the point where I'm stuffing it out between every hit. Not that that's like the end of the world. It's just a thing that I felt like sharing. Oh, my cat's got the zoomies. I think he's just being a little jumpy tonight. Um, what are you doing, buddy? You all right over there? All right. Anyway, so the Starbucks plastic straws. Backstory on that, if you didn't know, Starbucks announced that they're not going to give out plastic straws anymore. Moving on. This is sort of started to dot the whole country, as suddenly we're all concerned about the sea turtles. I don't really know why this all of a sudden became the thing, but all of a sudden, reusable straws became the new trend, and the thing that everybody wanted to get involved in. And Starbucks is the first like major national corporation here in the States that's saying, all right, we're done. No more plastic straws. Y'all can either get reusable straws, we'll sell reusable straws, or you can get cups with, or excuse me, lids with like sippy holes. All perfect options, if you ask me. And so Starbucks is eliminating plastic straws because plastic straws are a huge part of the ocean pollution issue, directly affecting sea turtles, because that's what the internet tells us. But honestly, I haven't even done enough research to tell you how much truth there is in that. How much straws are really affecting anything, I don't know. So there's that bit of backstory. The other piece of information you need here is that my favorite social media is Twitter. Obviously, for the podcast, the social media that I choose to embrace is Instagram, but my personal favorite is Twitter. I love Twitter. It's really like, it's got my sense of humor. It also really vibes with my darkness sometimes, because Twitter can be kind of a nasty place. And it's a place that I have learned, no matter what, somebody's always pissed off. Nobody is ever 100% happy on Twitter, or 100% of people are never happy on Twitter. Like, that didn't say what I wanted to say. That was not right. Not everybody is happy all the time. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Somebody's always pissed off. That's what I'm trying to say. That's Twitter in a nutshell. Like, no matter what happens, no matter what the thing is, there's always somebody pissed off about it. And you can say that on any social media, but trust me, as somebody who spends a lot of time on social media and has kind of a glorified social media degree, Twitter. That's what Twitter is. Everybody's pissed. And so I was seeing a lot of things on Twitter all boiling down to, it doesn't matter that Starbucks is banning it doesn't matter that Starbucks is banning plastic straws. It's not gonna change anything. It's not enough. It's too little too late. It's all of these things basically saying being angry that Starbucks is banning plastic straws. That's kind of how it feels on my end. I don't understand. It's weird. I don't like it. Here's my thing. To counter all of those things, basically what it boils down to is that people feel as though the world is being so heavily in that we are doing so many negative things to the environment, yada yada yada, all true, 100% true. It is undeniable that the worst thing for planet Earth is human beings. But a lot of people are saying because we are doing so much to tarnish the Earth, Starbucks banning plastic straws is only a drop in the ocean. You know, it's one small thing. And I think that might be true. I think that there's probably a lot of research and numbers to prove that that's true. I don't think that makes it a bad thing that Starbucks is banning plastic straws. You could be 100% right, you who knows more than me. And I'm sure that is honestly a lot of you, because I don't know a ton about this subject, but I'm sure that you could prove to me that Starbucks is a small contributor to the pollution problem when it comes specifically to their plastic straws. I'm not sure you could prove to me that Starbucks isn't a decent contributor to the pollution problem, because basically everything they sell is in some sort of plastic. That's neither here nor there. But specifically their plastic straws, not a huge influence on pollution. You might be able to prove that to me. You might not. I don't know. But even if it's only like 1% or less, 0.1%, and they ban all their plastic straws, that is still 0.1% better. That is undeniably less plastic in the ocean. You get rid of something, you don't have it anymore. That's what that is. Yeah, like being angry at Starbucks for making pollution, for making less pollution, doesn't make sense to me. Because even if it's only a little bit less pollution, it's still less pollution. I have a hard time wrapping my brain around how to explain this, because it's just such a foreign concept to me logically. It's just such an illogical ideology to me that something getting a little better is bad because it isn't enough. That's where I'm at with that. Now, my best friend who I had this conversation with is super into marine biology, has a degree that she listens to this podcast, and she's gonna be mad at me that I don't remember what her degree is. But I think that it might have been biology. Sorry if I'm wrong. Text me and tell me you're mad, I guess. But she was working in an aquarium. She's a marine biologist. Like, she does things that she would know a lot more about this than I would. And one of the things she said is she's angry not necessarily because she doesn't want let me start that over. She's angry not necessarily because she's mad at Starbucks for banning plastic straws. She's angry because A, that is such a small part and people are getting high and mighty about it, but B, because she doesn't want the cause that she cares about and something that she is very passionate about to just be another flash in the pan trend. And I really level with that. That is very real, and that is a real reason to be upset about this new thing, because incremental improvement is great and incremental improvement should be praised. However, you should never feel like you can't improve more. You should never stop trying to do better. You should always be trying to improve situations that you can improve. That is that's both sides of the Starfish story. Is like, you should always be trying to help. And that's why I like to, when I'm talking about that story, there's always I'll get to that here in a minute. Let me go back. Like, you should always be trying to improve yourself, your situation, things that you can improve upon. If you can make something better, do it. Make it better. Don't stop and say, well, I did this and that's enough. Because it probably isn't. You could probably be doing more. And that was what my friend was trying to tell me that she was upset about, was that she was afraid this was just going to be the next hot bang Twitter trend where, yeah, everybody's doing metal straws now and that's great. And now pollution is solved and the oceans are clean and the sea turtles will live forever. Moving on. Sorry about the dings in the background. That's an alarm that I literally can't turn off because it doesn't belong to me. Yeah, there is like a real thing that might happen because that is the way trends in America work. We do a thing, that problem is obviously solved now. Moving on to the next thing. Not how it works. Pollution is a huge issue. The oceans are a mess. There's literally a garbage pile the size of Texas floating off the west coast of the United States. It's gross. It's larger than Texas, in fact. Yeah, like, that. There's so much to this problem that we can't just let it be another hot flash, bang in the pan thing. But at the same time, we gotta tell people good job for doing a good job. We gotta give credit where credit is due. People are trying to help the environment, and even if it's a little thing, it's something, and it's a start. And so I'm gonna get back to what I said I was gonna get to later, but I'm gonna smoke first. Cheers. So, jumping back to the Starfish story. It's what the episode's about, after all. There's two ways to tell the Starfish story that I've heard. I'm not sure how intentional people are about telling the Starfish story. I know I'm intentional about it. So, in the beginning of that story, you can set that up one of two ways. It's either a story about a man or a story about a boy. And it's either a story about a kid who walks down the beach throwing starfish and is confronted by an old man who says, "Why are you doing this?" And the boy saying, "Because it's a good thing to do." Or it's a story about an old man who sees a boy throwing starfish back into the ocean and asks him why he's doing it. And the kid says, "Because it's a good thing to do." And that seems like a small difference, but the difference there is the lesson learned and the implications of the story. The way I told it, the man learning from the boy is incremental good, is a little bit that you do can help like that one individual, and that's important. Just because you can't solve the whole problem doesn't mean you shouldn't do your part to solve your part of the problem. The story from the side of the boy is I'm doing good for this one thing, and to this one thing it matters. And I don't know how important that difference is in the storytelling and the lesson learned by the person listening to the story, but I think that if you are an intentional storyteller, there are two very different ways to push the lesson of that story, but I think both are very important. And I think that this Starbucks pollution issue kind of talks about both of those sides, where the man learns about incremental good and about the small influence that the large influence that small actions can have on great problems. And the boy expresses not necessarily at all that he's trying to solve any part of the problem, but just that he is trying to improve the experience of that one starfish. He's trying to save the life of that one starfish. And it's the big picture versus the small picture. And that's sort of the two understandings that I've seen Twitter take, where it's either great that Starbucks is doing this because they're doing something, or Starbucks should be doing more because there's so much more to be done, or everybody should be doing more, not necessarily just Starbucks. And this isn't just a Starbucks plastic straw thing. You know, this relates to so many things. I talked about this in another episode where I talked about a guy saying, I have a daughter now, so now I respect women. I wish I remember what episode that was. It might have been the sentimental episode, or it might have been the episode like 2 before that. Check the like 20. It was definitely after the Tweedledum interview, I think. That's tentative. I don't know. Check somewhere after 20. It's one of them. I'm sorry. I should know better. But like, there is so many situations in today's world where people are upset at somebody for trying to do a little bit better because they aren't doing better enough. And I tweeted about this on my own and said, like, I will never understand why someone's I'm trying to do better is met with, well, that's not enough. Because if you're trying to do better, if you're doing a little bit, if you're doing something, that's important. And I got in a bit of a Twitter fight with a guy about this, where he tweeted something along the lines of, Starbucks banning straws doesn't matter, they should be doing so much more. And I quote tweeted it and said, but they're doing something, why is that a bad thing? And he replied to me with, I just put air in the tires of my Hummer, give me a conservation award. And I replied with that same logic of, next time I see somebody who needs stitches, I'll tell them not to bother subduing the bleeding, because only the final solution matters, obviously. Because that's the logic there. That's let's scale that in another direction. Let's say that just because somebody is improving themselves, if somebody's a 6-pack a day smoker, which is absurd, I know, but if somebody's a 2 or 3 pack a day smoker and they cut back to 2 or 3 cigarettes a day, is it great that they're still smoking 3 cigarettes a day? No. Is it impressive that they've improved? Yes. What's important there is to remember that just because they've cut back to 3 cigarettes a day doesn't mean they should stop trying to improve themselves and get to the point of smoking no cigarettes a day. But you gotta start somewhere, and you gotta praise people for what they do well. You gotta commend people for their goodness. You gotta give credit where credit is due. Whether you like it or not, whether it makes you happy or not, you can't shoot down people's accomplishments. It's not cool. Like, be proud of people for what they do. Support people for things they do that improve themselves. Because even if it's just a little, the encouragement for that little will encourage them to do more. It's just a thing, People give you compliments, increases the dopamine. Everybody in the world's addicted to dopamine. And so you do things that your body and your brain know give you more dopamine. So you keep doing improvements because you like to be praised for them. That's human nature, folks. It's just the way the world works. So if you're ever upset because someone isn't doing enough, don't yell at them for not doing enough. Praise them for doing what they've done. And then give them a friendly reminder that they shouldn't ever stop improving. That they can always be doing more. But commend people for doing what they do. Because you never know what it might take to save the life of that one starfish. And you may have no idea how much it means to that one starfish, that one little bit of praise that you give them. And throwing one back in the ocean is great. And even if you don't make it the whole way back into the ocean, if you get it close enough to the shoreline so it can crawl back in the water itself, It's going to save a starfish's life someday. And that is important. And here we are at the end of an episode. In fact, I've really enjoyed this one. It's been a while since I've really felt good about a recording on the other end of it, and I feel pretty good about this one. So, thanks for hanging out with me for the last 40 or so minutes. I appreciate it. My name is GLDLX, and this is Sesh Cast. This is just a little cannabis podcast that I do where I get high and I talk about stuff. If you enjoyed it, feel free to check out the rest of the episodes, and feel free to tell somebody else if you think they might enjoy it too. And I think that I'm doing a decent job at telling people to give me an iTunes review, because apparently that's what helps with the podcast and things. This is just a passion project for me. It's just something I do for fun. So, I don't care if it gets huge and changes the world. I just enjoy doing it. So, thanks for hanging out, and tell somebody if you want to, and if it wasn't your jam, I appreciate the 40 minutes of your life that you gave me anyway. You're not getting them back. Those are mine now. I'm going to hit this one more time, and I'm going to take off. Cheers, friends. My name is GLDLX. This has been Sesh Cast. Thank you so much for listening.